all, welcome back to management. How does it feel to be back in charge again?
Yeah, I'm pleased. You know, obviously the break was a break, but it's not a break. You know, I can't keep myself still, so I've done a lot of things, watched a lot of football, and done loads of other things. So you know, I haven't been kicking my heels, but no, it's nice to be, you know, back in and looking forward to really getting going.
So what was it about West Brom that made you decide that this was still the right project for you then?
I think you know, it's the right club at the right time in lots of respects. You know, I've got you know, a decent record of going to places and helping places turn around. I think you know, the fact that the club has struggled. You know, someone's just told me they've only won 4 games at the Hawthorns in 2014. So there's got to be something wrong, and there's got to be something that has to be sorted out. So, you know, it'll be nice. I've worked with the players yesterday and with them today. They're a very, very decent group of lads, and you know, like I say, I just can't wait to get going.
So what have you made of what you've seen so far? You were there at the game yesterday. You had a good look. What do you make of the situation that you're in?
I actually thought we were unlucky not to get the 3 points, especially second half when the game opened up and got stretched. I think if the lads, just like I spoke to them afterwards, just a little bit of confidence in the final third. We had 2 or 3 fantastic opportunities, you know, to create and score goals, and you know, we either took an extra touch or someone wanted to play it to someone else to take responsibility. So had a good talk about, you know, little things like that. But we'll really get into it next week. You know, the games come in, the 2 games in 3 days. Obviously, it's difficult to work with the players. But you know, next week we'll start our work.
Transfer window's open, of course, or will be very shortly. Have you already identified areas where you think you might need to strengthen another board, giving you some financial backing to be able to do that?
The chairman has mentioned what, you know, he feels, you know, the position of the club is. But as I've always said, you know, I'll do my business, and then you'll know, hopefully. And you know, instead of telling everybody what I'm trying to do and what I'm not trying to do, I'd rather just do my business, and then we'll talk about it after we've done it.
But you will have the final say.
Yeah, there's been a lot said about, you know, the way the club has been, you know, that has been run in the past, and now, you know, with me coming in, how it's going to be run in the future. I think the most important thing at a football club is that everybody works together, irrespective of, you know, decision making. You know, whether, you know, someone said to me, do you mind being called head coach? You can call me head bottle washer if you want. It doesn't make, the titles don't make no difference. You know, as long as I know, you know, that there's specific responsibilities I'm in charge of, then that's not a problem. I don't care what people call me or don't. And you know, having spoken to Terry, the chairman, and other people at the football club, you know, everybody understands the position we're in. Everybody understands what we have to try and do, and everybody understands that we have to be together to make sure that the club stays up. And you know, you've got to take this, you know, the way you want, irrespective of my record. That's by the by now. You know, you know, we're out in the open, and there's everybody fighting to stay up in the Premiership. And just because I've walked in the door doesn't mean that this football club's going to stay up. There's got to be a lot of work, a lot of work being done to make sure we do. And to do that, you know, we need the support of everybody. You know, this place, I've been here quite a few times, and this place rocks when the support is really behind the team, and we need to get that going again, desperately.
So at this stage, how confident are you that you'll be able to keep West Brom in the Premier League?
You need to give me a couple of weeks, and then I'll give you a better answer. But I'm under no illusions that it's going to be really, really difficult, as every team in the bottom half of the Premiership will tell you it is.
And the first game in charge in the FA Cup against Kent, how much are you looking forward to?
Well, I'm going to go upstairs again. Like I say, it's a really good opportunity for me to. It was a good opportunity. I went down at half time and had a good chat with the lads yesterday, and at full time. I'll have a little bit more time in the dressing room before the game tomorrow, but I still want to sit upstairs and have a look. You know, the FA Cup means a lot to me as a person. I think the cup competitions, when we were, you know, at my previous clubs, you know, I really, you know, recognise that supporters want to do well in the cups. And you know, I will try and win the game tomorrow. You know, the team that you'll see that we'll put out tomorrow is a strong team, and it's a team that's been picked to win a game of football, irrespective of who we're playing. I have you know, great respect for Gateshead, what they've done, the players they've got, and I certainly won't be underestimating them, and I don't think anybody at this football club should.
How does this job compare to the job you had at Palace then, Tony?
Well, it's, you know, like I say, I've just walked through the door, so you know, the infrastructure of the football club is in place. You know, there needed to be a lot more work done at Palace, off the pitch, and around the areas to get it up to what West Brom have got. But Palace only had 1 year, had only had the one season, or just got into the Premiership. I think West Brom is just the fifth year consecutive year they've been in the Premiership. So you'd expect the infrastructure to be, you know, in place and better. But infrastructure is secondary. The most important thing is the pitch. You know, you've got to have players on the pitch to win your games. You know, if you don't have if you don't have a team to win games and win matches, then you know, everything, all the surroundings just fall away into insignificance. You know, the supporters come to watch the team win. That team winning then gives you the opportunity to put infrastructure in place, and you should never take your eye off the ball and recognise and realise that, you know, it's the first team and their position in the Premiership that pays for everything else.
But Stoke, you always spoke very glowingly about the relationship you had with Peter Coates, the chairman. How confident are you can build a similar relationship with Chairman Peter?
Well, I have to. You know, I think it's important that you know, the relationship between a manager and chairman is most probably the biggest, you know, relationship and the most important relationship at any football club. So there's got to be that you know, that communication. You've got to communicate. You've got to make sure that you understand, you know, that you're both working together and both working at for the same cause. And there'll be times where we'll have differences. I'm sure, you know, there was times, you know, my relationship, I think everybody knows how much I respect, you know, Peter Coates and the family at Stoke. You know, they're just a wonderful, wonderful family. And, you know, I'll try and build up the same relationship with Jeremy if I possibly can.
Well, Mr. Coates and Mr. Peace, very different characters.
I honestly don't. I haven't spent enough time with the chairman. You know, you're talking about. I've known Peter for a long time. So, and that relationship just didn't fall into place. You know, we built a relationship over a period of time, and that's what you need. Hopefully, I'll get the same time here, and then I can compare.
You've had good success coming here as a visiting manager. You've got a good track record of playing against Albion here at the Hawthorns.
Yeah, it's a wonderful ground, wonderful stadium, and you know, everything is in place. And like I say, traditionally, it's you know, the founder member of the Football League. It's got great history, and you know, I'm just hoping and praying that we get the breaks, that we can, you know, use the transfer window to our advantage and bring a few players in, which we need to, and then push on from there.
If you were to sum up the Tony Pulis formula for achieving stability in the Premier League, what would that be, Tony?
Well, you have to find a way of winning, and irrespective of the players and the systems and what you believe in, you know, the way is there's only one way. You have to find a way to win games with what you've got. It's no good talking about doing it any other way. You have to find the strength of the players, recognise the strength of the players, and work on a system that will suit those players to get you the results you need.
Who are you bringing with you, Tony? And we saw David Kane
Hundreds.
this morning.
No. I've got Dave at the moment. We'll see. I'll make those decisions as we go on.
And the lads who are already here, you've not made a decision on their future
No, they.
yet?
You know, I spoke to Keith and the boys yesterday, and you know, I thought they handled themselves exceptionally well yesterday. And you know, before the game when I met them in the hotel, you know, during the game and after the game, and we've worked together again this morning, and they are really, fundamentally, they're really good lads who, you know, have this football club at heart.
And you've got the game tomorrow. You were saying that you're going to be upstairs.
Yeah.
What's the hierarchy? What's happening? Who is in charge then if you're upstairs?
I'll be the same people in charge tomorrow as was in charge at West Ham, in respect of down on the touchline, and I think David will go most probably on the bench of them tomorrow as well.
And you've had a look at your squad in both games and in training. How much
Only one game.
You didn't look at any other games before that?
I've watched videos, but
Okay.
I'm not a great, you know, I do take things off videos, but it's lovely watching games live. I think you get much more of a feel when you're watching the games live.
Well, in the short time that you've had a look, have you got a decent squad here? Are there players who are good enough to stay here and work under you?
Well, the first impressions is that, you know, they're well, today again, they've worked very, very hard. I watched them, like say, play at West Ham, which was a tough game yesterday. And they came off at another tough game. You know, they played two away games on the bounce. And to put the performance in that they did yesterday, that was absolutely first class. So I've been impressed with that, and hopefully I'll continue to be impressed.
And you're talking about doing a bit of business in the transfer window. Are you talking, I mean, I know it's early days, you've only just arrived, but are you talking about people going out as well as in?
I think every football club, if there's players coming in, then you might have to lose a few along the way. We have to balance the finances with the football side. That's something I understand. I've understood that since I first became a manager, which was a long time ago. So I understand you have to work hand in hand with your chairman, and that goes back to the relationship that you have with your chairman and the trust that you have. So that has to be built up over a period of time. Have we got to do business? Yeah, I think we have got to do business. I think there's areas, if you just look at the record and look at things that have happened over the past year, you know, things have to be, you know, addressed, and fingers crossed we'll get the time and the opportunity to do that.
And this may be a question for Terry rather than you, I don't know, but you've signed a 2.5-year deal here. Traditionally, there's been a 1-year rolling contract. Why the change?
That was a question for me, was it?
Well, anyone who can answer it, if indeed it can be answered.
I must admit, I don't even know the details of Tony's contract, so it would be unfair of me to sort of answer that question. As a football club, you know, we know we've got a man with a proven track record, who's done it year after year in the Premier League.
How quickly did you get in touch with Tony to try and persuade him to become your man?
Well, you know, as always, there's a process with these things, and you know, Tony being the man that he is, there was you know, a period in between Alan going and then the approach, which, you know, is the right way to do it, really. So we were very fortunate as a club that a man with Tony's record was available. And
you've worked Tony under, well, not under, but alongside a director of football in John Rudge at Stoke previously. How do you think this relationship's going to work? And do you and Terry or Richard go back of old?
Yeah, well, Kempy tells me, Kempy's worked with Terry before, and he says Terry will buy a round of drinks. Rudgy never bought a round of drinks, you know that. So I'm looking forward to Terry buying a drink now and then.